As she said, I got involved in about 2009. I saw a documentary that really shattered my perspective of what I thought the world was about. I was kind of one of those zombies that hadn't really thought anything through, didn't really care about a whole lot, was just gotta work, gotta go to college, gotta graduate, get married, have kids, retire, and die. And that is so sad. There's so much more to live for, and I was so inspired, not just politically, but spiritually when I got involved. And it's empowered me to do more with myself and to see more for our future. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful to the movement. I got involved and I was angry and I felt like a victim, and that's what propelled me, as I decided I was not going to be a victim. I was listening to Alex Jones all the time, going crazy. I do appreciate Jones, but I got tired of making me feel like I wanted to cry and like everything was futile. And that was how I found TAG, was getting involved locally, and it has really been a savior for me, just to exercise my rights to get out there and protest and stand up for myself. The education system was a big thing that inspired me really to take action, because it's so sad what's happening to kids being indoctrinated into following orders and falling in line, and just learning to be company men, and to just grovel at the state, and it's disgusting, and it's sad, and it's something that we can absolutely change. And I'm really grateful for all the people that are working within the education system. Taylor Meddings is teaching one of our breakout sessions, and she's doing just that. She's teaching children how much power they have, and trying to inspire them into really living up to their full potential. And so I appreciate people like Taylor and everybody that's involved in this movement to educate, because it really is going to take that. We talked with the last speaker, we were talking about war, but it boils down to education, to really teaching people that they were born free, and we are being oppressed right now, and you don't have to just take it. There are things that you can do to stand up for yourself, and that's what TAG's all about. It's about building relationships, it's about supporting those who stand up for themselves. Our motto is humanize, harmonize, localize. Humanizing is about building relationships, talking with people about how the issues that we're facing really affect all of us on a human level, how these policies are affecting my family. And building relationships with elected officials. You might be surprised to learn that they're not all terrible people. A lot of them think they're doing good things. And so when you can start communicating with them, especially the ones that are serving in local government, they feel like they're doing a good thing, and you might be able to influence them. And I certainly don't mean to say that participating in politics is what's going to save us, and we're going to go on. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you do outside the system. But you can have a positive influence with political activism. And you do that by speaking from your heart and speaking truth and getting the message out there. Harmonizing, once you start communicating openly with your neighbors, with your family, with our elected officials, you realize that we have a lot more in common than divides us. And so when we focus on those issues, we can actually make a difference. And we build single issue coalitions, because there's a lot of things that divide people. We could see here with the last discussion that there's even division within libertarianism about defense. And it's good to have these kinds of discussions, but there's so much more that unites us, and when we can focus on those issues, we can make a difference. Localizing the effort is where we can make a difference. As far as I'm concerned, the federal government is totally lost, and any effort we put into it is worthless. We can and we have been seeing Texans make a difference in Texas. We work during the legislative session. We also work at the city level, mostly in Austin, but we're wanting to branch out. I know that there's a lot of great activism in Houston, for example. What I love to see, most recently I was down there, they were standing in solidarity with the little girl who had been, she had her lemonade stand taken down by the police because she didn't have a permit. And so we have activists in Houston standing in solidarity with that young lady, and for the activists who were arrested in protest of it because they were selling lemonade for a quarter without a permit. Actually arrested, somebody was. And so they were standing up with them, standing in solidarity, and I think that is incredibly important to help to empower people to stand up for themselves. So the girl that was arrested for that nonsense, she should be empowered by all of us to take it to court, put them on the stand for putting her in a cage for hurting no one. And that's how we're going to be able to change policy, by taking it all the way there. So there's two arms to the movement from my perspective. There is political activism, which is important in stopping the machine, slowing it down, stopping it from increasing policies that infringe on our freedom, from dominating more markets which prevent us from being able to thrive as entrepreneurs. and really rolling back the cycle of tyranny that we have fallen into. And so I see a great deal of value in that. Also with judicial activism, with standing up for the people who are taking these guys to court and are trying to get things changed through the judicial system. And when they know that they have all of our support, they have a lot more power in and of themselves to continue with it, because it is a brutal process. Political activism can be defeating, and it can just beat you down, and sometimes it feels futile. I won't lie, there are battles that we lose and it sucks. But we have so much power that if we can all activate that and start communicating effectively with each other and with the people that aren't already libertarians, we're going to be able to change the tide, and I'm absolutely confident of that. One of the things that TAG focuses on is legislative activism. Changing policy, stopping bad bills from passing. We've been able to successfully stop checkpoints from being instituted in Texas. Last legislative session, there were 6 bills that would have instituted 3 forms of checkpoints: sobriety checkpoints, DWI checkpoints, and driver's license and insurance checkpoints. And we rallied the people, and we got folks down there to speak at the committee hearings, which is the best place to kill a bad bill. And the bill was dead after that. And one of the things that we can attribute that to was a little bit of our radical activism, which I'm kind of proud of, to demonstrate the absurdity of checkpoints in a free country. We went and dressed as Nazis and presented them with the Führer's Favorite Award for excellence in the area of tyranny. Not only did it make for a great YouTube video, and it was a ton of fun to do, but it was entirely successful because the next day at the committee hearing, a substitute bill was introduced that removed the provision. So we can have an impact. Some of our activism during the legislative session with regard to the TSA bill that Representative Simpson introduced, and introduced a new one for this session. HB 80 has been filed already. Fantastic bill. But they said they didn't have the votes in the Senate. So we picked up our Nazi armbands and wore our blue shirts and gloves, just like TSA Nazis, and we went and we presented them with awards and thanked them for not doing anything to protect the women and children in Texas. And the next day, they announced they had the votes in the Senate. And it was great. It was added on to the special session. Now, unfortunately, we all know that that bill did not eventually pass. There was a lot of political maneuvering done by the so-called leadership of Texas, Strauss, Dewhurst, and Perry, to prevent that from passing. It passed the House unanimously during the regular session. It passed the Senate during the special session. It had the support of the governor because it was added on, yet it still didn't pass. And that was a really hard one to take, but it gave us an opportunity to exercise our ability to activate the grassroots in Texas. We were able to generate 13,000 phone calls to the governor's office to implore him to add the bill onto the session. And I think that's a huge success, and it really inspired people to get involved during the session so we can stop more bad bills, we can get some good bills passed. Because there's a number of great bills that have been introduced. Simpson also reintroduced one that he introduced last session, which will remove sales tax from the purchase of metal, which is fantastic. Getting government out of the market. That is the kind of legislation that I can support. And so hopefully we'll be able to get that passed this session too. It came really close last time. But it's going to take all of us getting involved and making phone calls to your representatives, calling your friends and family that you know are interested in these issues, and getting them activated. And coming to Austin to the Capitol. You know, those of us who are here, I feel like we have a responsibility to really take as active of a role as we can while we're so close in proximity. But if you can come when a bill is important to you to come and testify, it feels so good to sit in front of these senators and these representatives and just speak truth to power, tell them exactly how you feel, hold nothing back, and let them look at you in just shock that you had the audacity to say exactly what was on your mind and speak exactly what the truth that is happening, which is the slip into further into totalitarianism. Another form of political activism is running for office. There is a lot of opportunity in running for office. Now, obviously from the election, we know that no libertarians, except for one city council in La Vista, which is fantastic. And there were some, libertarian-minded Republicans that won. David Simpson, I'm so glad that he was reelected. But running for office gives you, even if you don't have I would want to run to win, because I would have no interest in taking an oath to the Constitution, a piece of paper that serves the state. I wouldn't want to serve the state. I would be interested in running in order to get the message out, to having the media call me because I am running for office and they want to know what I think about this tax increase or this proposal or that policy. Having the opportunity to reach that many people, and then you have different interest groups calling you and wanting your opinion. You have an opportunity to influence policy by just running. And most importantly, when you get into these debates and these forums with the incumbents, you can nail them on their policy decisions, right to their face, right in front of their voters, and make them answer for themselves. It's high time that they start answering for themselves because for far too long, we haven't been paying attention. And I know, I can see this movement is swelling and it's a beautiful thing, and I'm so glad so many young people are getting involved. And I know that Ron Paul has done just an incredible job of really inspiring us, which is ironic because he's so old. But he's great. His farewell speech was so empowering. It was fantastic. He called them psychopaths right to their faces. That is incredible. Petition drives are fantastic because not only do they help you to actually change policy, but more importantly, they get you out there talking to the community about issues and getting people engaged. We had recently here in Austin, we had a measure on the ballot that was added to the ballot by a petition for 10 geographic representations to have single-member districts in Austin. It was a 10-1 plan, that's what they call it. And they collected 33,000 signatures. And it rallied the people on fair representation because this coalition, this single-issue coalition, was able to bring the support of the Democrats, the Republicans, the Libertarians, the Police Association, and TAG on a coalition together, which was incredible. But all of us agree that we might not agree on everything, but we deserve fair representation in our neighborhoods. And it was successful. They got the measure onto the ballot, and then they beat the politicians' attempt to confuse voters with a second plan, and they defeated that at the ballot, and that is something that we can really be proud of because it was the grassroots movement, it was boots on the ground, out there talking to people about fair representation, about the history of voting and representation in this city, and making a difference in how people voted and the decisions that they were making. And the petitions are just so great for communicating and talking to people and getting out there, which is probably the most important thing that we can do is actually learn how to effectively communicate. And that's one thing the last speaker talked about, also just nailed it, about us not effectively communicating the message because of, we always think that, oh, they're not educated enough, they're not smart enough. That's not necessarily true. They may have not ever heard of these ideas before. Our people have been so indoctrinated and so beat down by the system that can we even blame them? They're so wounded. And it takes us speaking from our hearts and getting out there and educating ourselves so that we can have the facts to present to them, to compel them to really get involved, to re-engage. And there's a lot of people that aren't engaged because they're so fed up with the system. They don't know that you exist. They don't know that you're out there and that we are out here talking about real truth and real empowerment for everybody on an individual basis, not just because we're Americans, but because we are free human beings that live on this planet. One issue that we're working on now in San Antonio, and you may have heard about it, the Northside Independent School District has implemented a pilot program called the RFID Student Locator Program. RFID stands for Radio Frequency Identification. It's a microchip that is embedded in their badges, and they're coerced to carry it around with them so that the school can track their every move. This is obviously not okay, especially when it's all surrounded based on money. It's all about collecting money, bringing in more state revenue. It's about this company, Wade Garcia and Associates, convincing the school board that this is going to keep kids safe. It's something that we see recurring at the federal, state, and right here at the local level, the school districts. Our children, one of the most precious things that we have, and it's being manipulated and violated by these corporate whores who just want to make money and they want to sell their technology. That's what they're looking to do, is open up a new market, and that they're being successful, and it's because the people didn't step up when the policy was being made. Luckily, this is a pilot program, and luckily we have people standing up against it in San Antonio and fighting it for various reasons. Some object on religious grounds, and I'm not particularly religious, but I absolutely believe in anyone's right to follow God however they see fit. And if something that the government is doing violates their rights to do so, the policy shouldn't exist. And there needs to be an opt-out policy for people that object on religious grounds for this. Right now, there is nothing but an arbitrary opt-out policy that the deputy superintendent decides. So people are fighting for that reason. Privacy rights. This chip never stops emitting the signal. It constantly is emitting it. And anybody with hacking skills and $500 to get a reader can track these kids wherever they go. That scares the hell out of me and should scare the hell out of every parent. Knowing that these because predators can take advantage of children with as little personal information as their name on their shirt. And now we have them able to track their patterns of when they go to school, the routes that they take, the time that they come and go. And what's worse is there's public information that gives you the schools, and of course they shouldn't be in public schools, right? And that's why this is public information. But they can get their address, their phone number, their grade level, the school that they go to, and all they have to go do is stand outside their house with that reader, get their tag number, and then they can track them wherever they go. And then there's the health risks associated with this radiation that's constantly emitting. And it's not just the child's one tag, it's the 30 students that are in class and then the 150 that are in the hallway could be constantly being bombarded by this. There's a young lady who has been leading the charge there. She was one of the first to stand up for herself and has continued to do so. Her name is Andrea Hernandez, and she is here today. And so I want to invite her up. I think that she thought it was just going to be her and her dad fighting this, and what she realized is that there's a whole community of us here that are willing to stand with her as she stands up for herself. So I want to let Andrea say a few words about her battle with this issue.
Thank you. Since I've started my battle with the school district and with the principals, I've been told numerous things. The first thing I was told was to shut up, that my opinion didn't matter, and that no matter what I said or what I did, I would lose. Second thing I was told was to fall in line. My deputy superintendent of my school district told me to wear a shell badge. Supposedly, this shell badge would not have a chip inside the badge, so it would not track me. But it is the symbol of the program that I would be wearing. It was identical to the rest. Nobody would be able to tell the difference. Mr. Galindo told me, Andrea, just wear the badge and follow in line like the rest of them, and you'll be a normal student. Normal student, I thought. Well, first of all, without my badge, I'm being segregated. All the students who do not have their new smart ID card, as the school likes to call it, they get moved to the farthest lunch line, on the farthest side of the cafeteria. We only have one lunch line for us. Second thing, that if you don't have your new RFID badge, you can't vote for anything. When homecoming came around, I went to go vote for homecoming queen and king. Well, they said, well, you don't have a new school ID badge, so sorry, I can't help you. I was like, well, I have my last year's badge, which is just tiny, real thin, like a credit card that you can use. It has my picture, my name, and what school I go to. And that was all that was needed. That was all that I was told that I was needed for all 4 years. He goes, no, I'm sorry, gotta go. Okay. So, another thing that the school has done is it started a very, very sickening bribery attempt on the students. They bribe the students with money and with food. For every student that they see in the hallway, wearing their ID around their neck and on display like a proud little puppy, they give them a ticket. And they fill it out, and they put their name on it, and their grade level. And it goes into a raffle. And if you're lucky enough, your name gets pulled, and you get a $5 gift certificate to any of the local retailers. Second awful, ugly bribery attempt is with food. The class, they encourage the teachers to wear theirs. By the way, the teachers' badges that look exactly like ours, they're empty. They do not have the microchip inside of them. But the teachers, of course, are the biggest supporters of the program. Even if they feel in their own personal opinion that they don't like it, they still have to say, yeah, we support the program, go ahead and wear your badge. So the teachers take pictures of their students wearing the smart ID cards. And then they submit it to the office, and in whatever class, has the most students wearing their smart ID cards gets a pizza party. Or they get an ice cream party, whatever they want. But they get a little food party. The most recent thing that's happened to me, besides being surrounded by police and administrators and kicked off campus, is now I'm finally getting kicked out of school. I go to Science and Engineering Academy, which is a part of John Jay. Well, since I refuse to comply with this program, they're kicking me out and sending me to my home school.
Good for you.
To clarify, not homeschool. This is a magnet school, and now she has to go to the regular school. She's being kicked out of the school that she earned her right to go to for the Science and Engineering Academy. If it was homeschooling, I'd be staying right on too.
But they sent me back to school as opposed to. Well, there's been several attempts to kick me out or try to get me in trouble with the school. I was being terrible. I was in school and I was getting signatures for a petition to get the program pulled from the school. Well, the administrators didn't really like that. You know, they're watching me. I'm across the street and I was doing it. And I was like, you know what? There's some kids on campus. Let me go over there and get signatures. So I go over there and I go get signatures. And first thing that happened to me, I didn't get any signatures. I was talking to a friend of mine. And I get, hey, you, we're there. I was like, oh, dang it. So I was like, all right. They're turning around and goes, Mr. Harris wants to talk to you. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Harris is the regular John Jay principal. So I look over to Mr. Harris, and he's sitting in the middle, and around him are coaches, police officers, and other administrators. So I walk over there by myself, and I tell him, yes sir, do you need something? He goes, what's in your hand? And I'm like, well, I'm holding my flyers and my petitions, right? Because we were having a rally that night. So I was holding this in my hands, and he goes, what's in your hand? And I was like, papers? He's like, no, those are petitions and flyers, aren't they? And I was like, yes sir. He was like, well, you can't hand those out. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry sir, I didn't know. And he's like, yes, you did, and you were breaking the rules and you know it. And I was like, well, no sir, actually I didn't, sorry. And meanwhile, the cops and everybody, they're kind of like inching closer to me, making me, like, try to intimidate me. So he goes, well, give me your paper, I want it now. He's like, well sir, can I call my dad and you can talk to him about this? No, give me your paperwork first, and then maybe I'll let you call your dad. This is after school. This isn't before school or during lunches or anything. This is after school. I'm not disrupting any learning environment. I was doing my own thing. Nope, you can't call your dad. Sorry, give me your paperwork. So I reached into my pocket to grab out my phone, and he goes, well, come here a second. So he pulls me out of this group of scary administrators, and he goes, okay, look, you have two options. I was like, okay. He goes, you can give me your paperwork, and I don't ever want to see it again, and you can stay on campus, and that's fine. Or you can take your paperwork and go back across the street and do what you think you can do to this program with your dad. So I was like, okay, well, have a good day, sir. I'll see you tomorrow. And that was the end of that conversation. But I wouldn't be able to do the things I do. I wouldn't be able to petition and rally if it wasn't for the help of TAG. TAG has been my biggest supporter. TAG and We Are Change Texas Hill Country and We Are Change San Antonio. They are big supporters as well as Catherine Albrecht and Spy Trips and her media. And I've done interviews with Alex Jones. I've been on his radio show and the nightly news. So all of them, I could not be where I am today standing in front of you guys telling you my story without their support. And that is how the community has helped me fight my battle.
I think it's great, and I'm proud to support her because she is standing up for herself, and I know I've said it probably 2 or 3 times already, but it is so important that we stand up for ourselves and that we support those that are doing so. So that was a bunch of political activism that we do, and this is kind of a good segue into social activism that we can take, the other arm of the movement. And the solution is not only fighting this program to get it reversed, but more importantly, keeping your kids the hell out of government schools is how we're going to combat it. It's going to be hard, right? It's hard to have the resources available to do that, and for a lot of people, it's not possible. Easily anyway, because they are being stolen from them. Money is being taken involuntarily, and if they had the choice to use their money how they see fit, they would be able to give their children the proper education that they deserve with people that are loving and compassionate and care about them as individuals and their prosperity. Unfortunately, that's not available for everyone, so in the meantime, for the children that are stuck in these indoctrination camps, we are going to keep pounding the pavement and make sure to get rid of this policy, which never should have been passed to begin with. One of TAC's mottos is community, not coercion. And the focus of the meaning behind that is that there is nothing that we need so badly that we should be using violence to attain. There is always a way for the community to rally together to build an institution if we need it. We can educate our children without stealing money from our neighbors in order to fund it. We can do that. We can provide health care to the sick and poor without instituting more taxes, which we're seeing right now. Obamacare at the federal level is not just coming from the federal level. All of our localities are opting into this program. We just saw it here in Austin, where they're increasing taxes, property taxes at the local level in order to receive matching funds from the federal level. And Texas, I don't remember the representative that introduced the bill, but there's been a bill introduced that says that if Texas, essentially, paraphrasing, that if Texas nullifies Obamacare or nationalized health care, that the cities and local governments can still opt into it. So that might be a bill that we want to talk about. Now, I'm all about local control, but at some point, our cities are affiliates, literally affiliates of the state government, unlike federal government and the state's relationship. And there should be some kind of check on that. So there's bills like that being introduced all the time that are going to, they're in the legislative session, but that's political activism. I'm done with that. We want to talk about what we can do to really build the kind of alternate institutions that are going to be necessary in order to have a free society. If that's what we want is to be free, we have to start living like it. We have to start leading by example and showing people how it's done. The best thing that we can do to set people up for political activism is give them examples of how the free market works, about how voluntary institutions work better, more efficiently, and peacefully than any kind of government program. And there's examples of that, like we were saying with the first speaker, which was fantastic, talking about the history of taking care of each other, these groups, these fraternal organizations. And it's a shame that more of them don't exist now, and I'm sure that they've been regulated out of providing health care and having hospitals that help people for little to no cost. It's not true that we didn't have government health care before Obamacare passed. We've absolutely had government health care. They control the doctors that go into the market, they control the hospitals, they control our medicine, all of that. So right now it's just a money thing where there's a single payer kind of thing. We have government health care. We've had government health care for decades, which is why we're in the position that we're in. And if we had more organizations like the ones we saw at last century, we would have a lot more people being taken care of and provided for by the community. I believe wholeheartedly that people are inherently good, that there are bad people that do bad things. Absolutely there are. But most people, most of the time, are good, caring, compassionate people, and I want to see more of what is in their hearts coming out in their actions and not having government policies that prevent them from doing so. We have a natural desire to want to help people. And that's why people go along with social services. The premise behind that is that I want to help the hungry and the homeless. So I'm okay with this tax. But the problem is that on principle, it's using force to get it, which is automatically wrong. But government is the least efficient way to do anything except for murder people around the world. That's the only thing that they're good at. And I'm glad we can kind of chuckle about it, but it's so sad and it's so true. And until people start really realizing the detriment that their means have to their ends, they're not going to be able to see through it and be able to get to the real solutions that will actually get them to what their ends actually are. A quote from Henry David Thoreau in his essay, Civil Disobedience, which is a fantastic read if you haven't read it. Fantastic. He said, "Yet this government never of itself furthered any enterprise, but by the alacrity with which it got out of its way. It does not keep this country free. It did not settle the West. It does not educate. The character inherent in the American people have done all that has been accomplished, and that it would have been done so somewhat more if the government had not sometimes gotten its way." And that is just as true now as it was in the late 1800s when he wrote it. And he was already seeing that back then, just 100 years into this country's founding. So it's been a long time that this country's been off track. It's not just all of a sudden in the last few decades or last few administrations. It has been decades and arguably centuries that our people have been oppressed by a government that was supposed to be the greatest government on earth, that was representative of the people and was built on principles. That's why we were founded as a republic. But all of that has gone by the wayside. But the America that was founded is dead and gone. And it's important that we realize that and start building our own institutions, our own society, exactly how we see it in our image, which is peaceful and loving and compassionate. And just as every innocent human being is born, I think that's how we're born, is free and loving and compassionate. So if we can translate that to adults, if we can not be so warped by what the system tells us is how we have to do things, then we'll be able to actually achieve the society that we want. Keeping money local is really important. Keeping your resources flowing, and when you buy things on scale, you can get a lot more for your money, which is great, and that's why people appreciate Walmart. They're cheap, their prices are low because they buy things in bulk and take advantage of a lot of people. But that's the appeal, is that they can get it lower. But for me, I see more value in an item that costs a little bit more, a few more Federal Reserve notes, and knowing peace of mind that I am contributing to my local economy. I'm giving that money to a local investor who's going to, in turn, give it to, or not investor, a business owner who's going to, in turn, invest that or use it in the community. And so when we keep our money local, we can really thrive locally, and that's all that matters. I mean, if everybody takes back their city or their county and their state, all of a sudden we could have a country that's actually more like America in 1776 or 1780 than it is now. And barter and trade networks within this local community of keeping your money local is really important, because that way we can avoid taxes. They can't tax our barter. One thing that KJ Kerr was talking about at the last meeting, he's here somewhere, but he was talking about, he was very passionate about entrepreneurship and starting a business. And I think that this is an incredibly effective form of activism. One example is Laura Presley. She is an activist here in Austin, and she has a rainwater, bottled water business called Pure Rain. And what I love is that not only does she participate in the activism for clean water in Austin, she works hard to get fluoride out of the water, which is a plight on our society, having this chemical, this poison in 67% of municipal water. So she's fighting it there, but she also has a business where she's making money, because we all want to make money, we all need to live, and she's providing a service to our community, providing good, clean, fresh water. So those kinds of ideas are fantastic, and there's all the opportunities are endless. And one thing that I want to just take a second, we're going to do a little bit of something that's a little different in a little bit. But right now, while we're thinking about this and talking about it, I'd like you to write down forms of activism that you are either participating in now or you would like to participate in. And it can be anything from, testifying at the legislature to organizing a tree planting project in your city. Anything like that. So, and then we're going to break into groups, and I want people to discuss that. So just as we're going, write those down, what you are participating in or what you would like to participate in. And it can be social activism or political activism. So starting a business is great because not only does it keep money flowing in our economy, it also provides valuable services. Private schools are great. Yeah, there's profit involved. Sure, people need to make a living, but it also provides a much better product than any government school ever has. And markets exist all around us. And as the economy tanks, as it is doing, markets still exist. There's still opportunity. You just have to adjust yourself to being able to operate in new markets and taking advantage of the resources that are available and that do exist. And those are all over the place. We just have to look a little deeper than just on the surface. One thing that John Bush, who was he was the former executive director and has been an inspiration to me as I've gone through my evolution in getting involved. And one thing that he said with regard to local currencies was, with all the focus on ending the Fed, if we all just got off the dollar and started using local currency, the Fed would end itself. It would collapse in and on itself because it wouldn't have us sustaining its debt. So that is really the idea of doing it on your own, a free market idea to just disempower a system that is proven to harm us, do nothing but harm us. So starting nonprofits, and now just to kind of clarify, when I say nonprofit, I don't necessarily mean 501c3, because that literally makes you an entity of the state. It's a statist organization, well-intentioned, but still a statist organization. Nonprofit, when I say nonprofit, it can be that. I won't judge you if you start a awesome nonprofit on paper. But it would be great to have just organizations of people working together and collecting money and spending it on things that they want to do. So nonprofits are a fantastic way to do it to achieve our goals. One issue that always seems to come up that really keeps us divided, of course, is the abortion issue. And with my personal view, I think it's just awful that that's happening all over the place. It's terrible that we're in the position that we're killing the unborn for whatever reason. Now, do I think government should be involved? Absolutely not. They should not be involved. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to fix the problem of this happening in our communities. And so what I'd like to see is more nonprofits focused on counseling young girls so that they will have and adoption efforts. And so if you all the effort that people focus and bitching and complaining and trying to get government to fix the problem, they could put all of those resources into a nonprofit organization that actually gets babies out alive and into homes. All of that energy could be used to actually get what they want done if they just did it themselves instead of begging their masters to do it for them. The same is true of homelessness and hunger, education, ending the war. Huge on my list of interests. All war, not just foreign war, but the domestic war that's been waged on our people here. And one of the biggest ways that we can stop the foreign wars and stop empowering the beast is to starve it, to start educating kids and parents of seniors and juniors that are signing up for the military, the horrors of what's going on. These people coming back, we're losing so many veterans to suicide every single day. And it's absolutely disgusting. And if we educate people about what actually happens when you join the U.S. empire, when you go and you fight their wars for profit and power, what happens to you as a human being, they're going to think twice. They're going to think it might not be worth that money that I'm getting, because right now they're bribing our kids, and they're contracting before they can even really understand what's happening. And it's sad, and I think that if we act preemptively and educate them and keep them from getting into it, we're going to be able to make a much bigger difference on the war than with our rallies out with picket signs outside the state legislature. So that's one opportunity for us to just alternate ways to starve the beast rather than going through policy. Nonprofits and mentoring are incredibly important. Teaching kids how to live freely, the power that they actually have. A nonprofit here locally that one of the TAG steering committee members has started is HALO. It's helping athletes lead others, and it's about working on leadership skills through sports. And it's a nonprofit, so they're not trying to go and get money through the school system, which is already strapped because of all of the high salaries of the administrators, of course, and the special interests that control all of our system. So they're really just getting out there and doing it. They're raising money on their merit of their program, and people see value in it, so they donate to it. If there was value in the public education system, they wouldn't have to steal from people to fund it. And so that's what we see with these kind of nonprofits that are successful, is because people want to donate to them. So the biggest thing here is putting your energy into things that satisfy you, that actually achieve your goals. Thinking about what you want and how you want to get there, and making sure they're consistent. Our means must be, or our ends and our means must be consistent. Otherwise, we're not making it. You can vote every day. You can vote with every dollar you spend, with every organization you volunteer for, with the people you associate with. There's more than just voting at the ballot box. There's voting with your energy and where you focus your time and resources. And that's the most effective way to actually make change. So we are, in just a moment, I'm about ready actually. I have volunteers in corners. They're moving. Taylor Medding is going to be here, and if you're in the Houston area, you're gonna move over there. We have Justin Armand here for the DFW area. Bilal is there, and he's going over to this corner for San Antonio. And then we have Austin over here with Norman Horn. And what we're gonna do is break up really quickly. I want people to introduce themselves to each other, talk about what you wrote down on that piece of paper, the activism that you want to get involved in or that you're doing, and network and find something that you might be able to work with someone else on. And we're gonna come right back.
Heather, can you go over those regions again?
Yes. San Antonio is back to my right. Norman Horn over here for Austin. Justin Armand back there for Dallas Fort Worth. And Taylor Medding in Houston. And I just want to leave you with telling you that, you have all the power. We have all the power that exists. And when we lead with peace and compassion and speaking from our hearts, we will create the society that we want and that we deserve. And the most important form of activism is bettering yourself and becoming the person that you want to be, regardless of the hurdles that people and the system will put in front of you. Educate yourself, find a way to work for yourself and be satisfied with the work that you do and the way that you earn an income. And most importantly is be a good parent when you have kids and teach your children to lead with love and compassion. Try to remove violence entirely from the teachings of your children and really let them know how powerful that they are. And when you lead with that intention, you're going to change the world with every single step that you take. So thank you so much for being involved, and thank you Students for Liberty for organizing this and having me.